All right. Today, I am diving into all things purchasing products, selling them to your clients, and here's why. This episode was actually not planned, unscripted, because I was actually supposed to record another episode. I've been doing this a lot lately, but I had, prior to sitting down to record this, I had a one-on-one coaching call. And one-on-one coaching calls is not something I do typically. It is something I offer to the members of my designers room. And so every once in a while, they will book a one-on-one call with me. I mean, I do have an additional service that I haven't really officially announced to the world, but we're working on developing it, which would be a one-on-one intensive, like VIP day in person in my studio. We're going to do one of those a month. And that is for like the designer that really wants hands-on, dedicated, customized coaching for their business and where they're at. I have a little bit of that on my website. You guys can check it out, but we will share more in the months ahead as we kind of fine tune that offering, because I know a lot of you have asked for some more customized help. But today I had a one-on-one call, and what came out of that call was I guess an appreciation for the details. And I know I've talked a lot about purchasing product and presenting your ideas to your clients and collecting money and pricing, but I don't think I've ever really gone into more detail about the specifics of purchasing. What does that look like? How do you do it? And so that's what today's episode is, because let's be honest, these are like kind of the little tiny things that they do not teach you in design school. Like, they don't teach you this at all. And so I don't even know, do they even teach this in like a business school? So I'm going to dive into that today. And if you guys liked this conversation, you might also like a recent podcast episode. It was episode number 160. And that episode's called Determining Who Purchases Products for Clients. It originally aired on July the 7th. So if you can't search by number, just search by date, July the 7th. And in that episode, I share the pros and cons of purchasing product for a client versus having the contractor purchase it. It was a candid corner that we then released on the podcast. So go give that a listen. So today's episode is a bit of an extension of that. And it's talking about, what does it look like when you are the person purchasing the products from the client? So when I had this one-on-one call, this coaching call, it became clear to me that like this design firm is probably similar to a lot of design firms, because I was that way at one point, in that they were feeling not confident buying and selling for their clients. And they were considering maybe an online shop. They were wondering, how do I work with wholesalers? So I want to walk you through, the three ways that I believe you can work to sell products to clients. So first of all, you guys know that I'm a strong believer in not sharing your discounts. Not sharing your discounts. I think it's an important distinction, because this whole idea is like purchasing. If you are going to be sharing your discounts, don't purchase product for the client. Full stop. What would be the point? There is no way that your time will be covered by your hourly fees unless you are like a lawyer and you are billing for every quarter hour of everything you touch on that project. If you're like that, this episode's not for you. Keep going as you were. But I would say that there's some background noise. I hope you guys can't hear it. Oh my goodness, of course. There are three ways that I think you can resell products to your clients. So the first way is you buy directly from a retailer and you get commission. And you could send your clients there directly. So you pick the product and you say, okay, this is all the product. I'm going to have you purchase directly from this retailer. And the client puts their credit card down to the retailer. You're not involved, and you get a kickback or you get a commission. Maybe it's 20%, maybe it's 25%. but you get a commission because you brought the client to the retailer. The great thing about that is you have no responsibility, no liability. You are not on the hook for anything to do with that product. If it's back ordered, if it's delayed, if it's damaged, if it needs to be replaced, if it's canceled, if it arrives and the finish is wrong, or if it arrives and the scale is off, well, that might be on you. But you really don't have a lot to worry about in that model. And I think a lot of designers, when they start out, feel like that's the safest way to do it. But here's the thing. When you do that, you don't get to collect the points on your own credit card. Like, hello, so much of my travel has been paid for by my business travel points. But also, you don't have the same control. So what could happen is the client might go to purchase the product you recommended, but then they go rogue and they pick something else. Or they go to the store and they say, oh, I know she wanted me to get that, but like, what about this thing? And then you're fielding calls and you're going back and forth. And then sometimes they just end up right back where you started, right? Or they end up just buying things that you don't think work with the design because you can't control what's purchased. You're just offering a suggestion at that point. And so that could be rather frustrating. And then lastly, I would say that this way of doing things is not really congruent with a full service offering. So if you want to be known, and maybe you don't, but if you want to be known as a full service interior design firm that makes your client's life easy, don't worry, we'll take care of the details. Well, then you probably should be purchasing for them because that would make their life easier, right? So those are some of the pros and cons of doing it that way. So that's the one way. I'm going to go to the other end of the spectrum, into the far reaches and extreme. The other way is you purchase everything for the client wholesale. And when you purchase everything wholesale, you get a really great price, right? Now, if you're in Canada, this is a lot more challenging because you have to deal with brokerage, exchange rate, and you need to make sure you have a receiver. Like, there are so many elements that are involved in that. Some wholesalers will not sell to you based on area. If there is a retailer in your area that owns the rights to sell in a certain territory, so you could come into that situation. I have encountered that. I tried to set up an account, direct account with Hudson Valley Lighting a few years ago, because I had heard of another designer who had done it, but she set up her account like a decade prior. And Hudson Valley Lighting was like, oh, we see that your postal code is close to LT, which is one of our big clients. And so we can't allow you to sell. We can't sell to you directly because they sort of have exclusivity in that area. And I was like, oh my gosh. So if I lived or had an office further away than any retail store, I could probably get it. So there's those things to be aware of. So that is a really great way, though, if you are doing big projects or you have volume. If you can bring in wholesale, you're going to have the best bang for your buck. You're going to get the best return on your money, meaning that you are going to make a good profit margin, right? So you're going to invest a little bit of time figuring out how to do it. But then you mark it up to your client at the retail value. Again, we're not sharing discounts here. That's not what we're in the business of. We're not a discount superstore. And then you have that money to cover your expenses and then some. So let's talk about the middle. Obviously, that's really wonderful. You know the pros and cons of that. It's not easy to set that up. Sometimes there are minimum orders that are required that could be pretty high for someone just starting out. In the middle is where I am. And in the middle can be a good place to be if you want to increase your profit margin, but you do not want to assume the responsibility of being the retailer, meaning you're bringing everything wholesale on pallets. You have to inspect it if anything is wrong, figuring out the brokerage, dealing with the border. If you're across border, if you're in the US, you don't have to worry about the border. So that is like that you just remove that objection altogether. In the middle is a combination of purchasing product through retail sources and wholesale and custom. right? So custom is kind of like wholesale. And in the middle, there's a combination of marking up wholesale, so you get a hefty margin, and maybe a discount from retail for the certain areas or certain items that you can't bring in yourself. When you're in the middle of this model, in the middle of the spectrum here where I am, I recommend you try to grow those wholesalers, those custom fabricators as much as possible. They become your go-to resources, and the retail is a second option. But in this middle ground, you purchase everything on behalf of your client. And in a minute, I'm going to walk you through what that looks like in a presentation. So just hang with me here for a second. So you are purchasing through partners, retail partners, and some wholesalers. And you are collecting the money from your client, all of it or a deposit, it's up to you. And then you are purchasing the product using your credit card and managing those orders, controlling the timelines, when things are ordered. You also then need to deal with any back ordered items, any quantity, any substitutions, any quantity changes, when something arrives broken or damaged, if you need to return or exchange. You have to spend time doing those things. This is why you need to keep your margin. You need to keep your discount. You need to keep your markup to help cover your internal expenses. Okay, those are sort of the three ways that I see it. It's like this big spectrum. One is, I'm not responsible. It's all retail. Middle is, I'm responsible, but it's a combo of retail and wholesale. And then the other is full wholesale. I'm responsible for everything, but I'm making good bank as a result. I can tell you it takes time to build up those wholesaler contacts. One thing I recommend to designers is go to High Point Market, go to Vegas Market, talk to other designers, get in community with designers, like join us in Power of Process, have these conversations, go to the Designer Meetups Facebook group. That conversation is happening all the time. Just type in, you could just search that group, type in wholesaler and see all the recommendations people have made and start to build your network so that you can build out those relationships and those partnerships so you can start to make more money by sourcing wholesale. Okay, so that's all well and good. Now, depending on where you're at on the spectrum, you may or may not want to present pricing to your client. If you're doing the full retail model where you're like, I'm not buying anything, it's all on the client, you may not present the pricing to them even. I'm not sure. I mean, I have never done that model, but I know that there are design firms that are doing it. You might want to get the store to just send you their printout with like all the items and the price, and then you can give it to the client and then they can pay directly. That's likely. There's probably no point in you putting it into your system, spending all those hours, administrative hours, entering all that data if you're not making that much money on the product. But when we get to presentation and we put everything out on the table and we have pictures and we have, things up on the TV, that is when we present pricing. So at the end, we print out a proposal that we have generated inside Design Docs. You could use QuickBooks, FreshBooks, Mydoma. I mean, there's tons of programs that you could use. You could do your own Excel, completely up to you. But we present total project pricing. So we say, look, isn't everything amazing here? Okay, let's kind of walk through the prices. And so what I do is I put in the construction costs into Design Docs so the client can see. I like them to see a grand total for their project. Why? Because they've hired us to manage their budget as well. And so I want them to know that we're not just focused on what we're doing and like blowing the budget. We've shown them that we are considering all the aspects of their renovation or their build. So the build or the construction is coming in around like, I don't know, $800,000 for the build. And then there's another $300,000 that we're supplying. So now we're at 1.1 million, plus contingency so that they can understand where we're at. And then we can help them prioritize their budget if maybe something needs to be removed from the contractor scope. Maybe something needs to be adjusted in our scope. But then we do walk them through our all of the items that we have selected for their project. And now I'm just going to pause there to say, I've had a lot of people asking what these proposals look like. And so what we've done is we've recently done, really, it's almost like an overhaul, but we've completely updated Power of Process. So my course for designers, all about establishing process, elevating your business, getting organized behind the scenes in your firm. That course now has additional lessons that I've never done before. And one whole module of Power Process now is about the entire design process, getting from the moment the client hires you to you presenting your designs and going through revisions. And so there's a lesson where I'm going to walk designers through what our proposal, I'm going to show you visuals of what our proposals look like and how we present it. Because I think there are nuances to presenting your ideas and pricing. There are sales techniques and tactics you can use to make it easier so it feels less scary to talk about numbers. So I think if this interests you, you're really going to want to join us in Power of Process, because I'm really going to dive into the nitty-gritty. But for today's purposes, I do want to share that in the proposal, we do room totals, and we list all the items and elements in a room, and then we put the total for the room. And we do that for every room, and we walk them through. And then there's a total. And let's say the total is $100,000. They see that, we're able to meet their objections head on, right? If they're like, ooh, that's more than we talked about, or yeah, okay, no, that's on par. Or you can tell if there's something that they're like, oh, I don't know about that pillow, or yeah, that couch, or whatever it might be. We then show them on the design docs proposal, there is a deposit line. And the deposit that we take is 75%. And some designers take 100%. Some people take 50%. I used to take just the percentage that I needed based on my suppliers. So some items were 50, like, I don't know, like custom furniture. Some items were 100, like fabric. Some items were like 75. It was really messy. And then it was hard for our clients to understand how we came to this random number, because it wasn't possible to show them individually, because I'm not showing them individual line item pricing. So now we just take 75%. We take 75% of all the products so that we can start placing orders. And here's the thing. Hold on, take a sip of my water. Listen close. You're going to want to write this down or put it in your phone, because this is important. We do not order anything until we have received the money from the client. Let me repeat. Do not initiate purchasing before receiving the money from the client. Do not, ever, never, don't do it. And if your client's delayed, you tell the client, unfortunately, we cannot secure the product. It is not on hold for us, and past 24 hours, we cannot secure. We do not know if that quantity will still be available. There may be substitutions. If you're delayed in kickstarting the project or giving us a deposit, and then we will have to bill hourly for us to find a substitute. So I think that's really, really important to make sure you never order until you've received the money. The same way I always say to designers, never start a project coordinating your trades, coordinating your team until the client has paid you the design fee or a retainer or a deposit. I've seen too many designer friends of mine get to the client's house, spend like 3 hours on trade day, bring all of their trades, their team measures everything up, and then they're like weeks later, still haven't received the deposit. And they're like, oh my God, I'm out of pocket for trade day. I'm like, don't even schedule it until you get the money in the bank. And you might even want to give it a week to clear if it's a big check. Okay. So why do I collect 75%? Here's why I collect 75%. 75% is always more than I need to place the orders. Because we do a lot of custom product, that custom product often requires a 50% deposit. And so 75% is more than I need for those. And we order very few retail items that would be 100%. And so all in all, we're collecting more upfront than we need. But why don't I just collect 100%? Because I know there are designers who do that. Here's why I have decided not to collect 100%. I like that the client knows there's going to be a balance due. They know more or less what that is because they saw it. It was $100,000. They gave me $75,000. There'll be $25,000, 25% due prior to install of millwork. That's when we do it. We tell them that, we put it in the calendar. We're really getting better. I'm not going to say it's perfect, but we're getting better at making sure we invoice the client weeks prior to millwork install so that it gives them time to pay us. But anyhow, I like that they have that 25% still coming because things can change. Like these projects can take a year and a half, right? And so sometimes longer. And so you're in the middle of the project and like, you know what, the millwork, they come to do the site measure and, you know, we've got like a foot less than we thought. Well, that's going to affect the design. Well, you know what, if we're going to have to only have that much space for the laundry, then I don't know. I think we should do actually a built-in instead of the closet, whatever it might be. Oh, right. That's going to cost more money. Maybe it's a couple $1,000s more in millwork. Well, it gives me an opportunity to add that to the balance owing. And I don't have to go to the client and be like, hey, I need you to give me this money. I'll just say, here's the cost difference. We can move forward if you sign off on it. And the balance, the balance or that additional cost will be added to your balance owing. I just like the security of A, there's no surprises for the client. And B, it gives me an opportunity to throw in whatever extra costs pop up as we go without worrying about backlash from clients. So that is how we manage the deposit structure and the purchasing. We go ahead and we internally purchase everything. We create purchase orders, we track the orders, we use design docs, and we make sure that everything arrives, it gets inspected. It's a lot of responsibility and it's time. And so that's why you need to maximize the margin on those goods. Okay, lastly, I want to talk about the accessories because a question that came up in this call was about accessories. And I think it's worth clarifying that there's multiple ways to purchase accessories for clients. And here I'm going to share with you 2 ways that I know and have done, and I'll let you decide what works best for you. So purchasing accessories is, first of all, so important. If you are an interior design firm owner and you want to photograph the home, whether you decorated it or not, ideally you get some decor in there, you want to style it so that it looks beautiful and you can photograph it. I mean, yes, you can hire a stylist to just style the space for a photo shoot, but if you are a design firm owner that wants to be full service and tell your clients, okay, we're going to leave you with a turnkey, like it's going to be beautiful, then I highly recommend you get those finishing touches in. When I was early in running my design business, the clients ran out of money or they ran out of desire. And so I was just billing hourly, doing my thing, running around my little chicken, no head, you know, just rocking around being like, okay, let's go pick flooring now. Like, whatever. It was like loosey-goosey over here. And we'd get to the end of the project, what felt like forever. It felt like I had decision fatigue. The clients had decision fatigue and I had no process. It was just like, okay, what's next? I just kept billing them every 2 weeks. Most of the time I forgot or I was too busy. So like I wouldn't bill them regularly. Like it was a bit of a gigantic pile of crap. And at the end, I didn't even want to style it. I was so tired. I was so done. I had zero desire. Or if I had a desire, the client wasn't interested. They were like, you know what? I think we're good. Like we've got some accessories. Like we'll just do it over time. Like I appreciate that. But so now we get the money up front. So there's 2 ways you can do it. One way is you tell the clients at the beginning, we are going to style your space at the end. we're going to shop the city. We're going to talk to you about budget so we can stay within your budget that you want. And we will shop the city and style everything for your reveal. Anything you want to keep, you can purchase from us, and we will return anything you don't want. This worked for me for a while. I enjoyed it. I would show up at reveal day. We would have a shopping list, meaning I had pre-entered the items into design docs, which was rather time consuming, and put prices. I wanted to make sure we marked everything up. And then I would leave the price list. If we were really organized, we would leave the price list with the client after the reveal. And then that night they could like enjoy their space, and then they could shop their house. Basically, they would go through and they'd be like, oh, I love that box, but oh my God, $300. I think we'll keep this. Oh yeah, this is a HomeSense one. So this is $10. This looks good. We'll keep that. They always kept the cheap stuff and returned the expensive stuff. But it was fine. I got my pictures, didn't worry about it. But then we had to go back. We wrapped everything up. We packed it all up. We took it back to the stores. We returned it. And it was a lot of work. I'm not going to lie. It was time consuming. But at least I got to style it. And so that is a great way to do it if you're starting out. The second way, which is the way we do it most of the time now, I would be lying if I said every project we did it this way, but most of the time we do this. When we do our presentation and we have our beautiful proposal, that's the proposal that I share inside Power of Process, where you see all the items, we put in an allowance. So we now collect, when possible, money at the very beginning, when the client has money, when they're like, oh, so excited to like, I don't know, dive into the project, make it beautiful. We will collect an allowance. It could be $500, could be $2,000, could be $10,000, depending on the scale and the scope of the project. And that is an accessories allowance. The great thing about that is that literally by the end, they don't remember. They don't remember how much money they gave you. They don't even remember that you're doing it. I even had a client say after a reveal, we styled it. We were able to shop that entire year, picking up like neat things from antique stores, consignment stores, like stores on my travels, and just start to curate great accessories. I had the client say, oh my gosh, we loved all those accessories. Are we going to be able to buy them? To which I was like, lady, you already paid for these. Like she completely had blanked and forgotten about it. And it was such a lovely bonus to be able to leave all those beautiful elements. So that is a really great way to do it. But you have to build trust, right? Because it's like, if I'm going to do this, like there's no returning anything. You're agreeing to, I mean, if there's something that you put in their space that they are like vehemently opposed to, and it like sparks up these like terrible memories of, I don't know, use your judgment. But in general, you do pretty things. And I don't over style when I do that. Whereas when I hire a stylist for a photo shoot, I'll over style, if you know what I mean. Like I'll bring in extra elements, but I style it so that it's beautiful, it's lovely, and the clients are happy. And so that is the second way I recommend. If you can get to a place where your clients trust you to style it and be done, that saves you so much time, all the extra billing, all the extra running around, all the returns, and then you get a beautiful space that you can photograph. Okay. I feel like this conversation can't happen without just a final mention about sales. One of the, I think, hesitations that design firm owners have when it comes to reselling goods for their clients is that there's like a lack of confidence in selling and feeling like I need to pass on the discount or I need to pick something that's cheaper. And quite often we forget that people are making emotional choices. It's their home, right? I mean, commercial spaces is very different, but when it's their home, it's an emotional choice. It's no different than I'm going to go and I'm going to spend, I don't know, $200 on or $300 on that like designer rain jacket, like a raincoat, because it's just like, oh, the quality, it feels so nice. And like, I just know it's a recognizable brand. I feel cool when I wear it. So even though I could go to the Gap and for $19.99, I could get something similar, I don't. Homes are the same way. And so when it comes to selling the product to your client, it's more than just saying this tile and then that. Tell a story. Think about the items that you're recommending to put into their home, and tell the story of, these are organic cotton sheets that are like hand sewn in Portugal. This custom sofa is made here in Canada made with FSC certified wood, and it's a mom and pop shop. These lamps are what blah blah blah. Like, romance the shit out of that stuff. Tell a story so that the clients really feel like, wow, what I'm getting is exceptional, and so I will pay that extra price tag if it is an extra price tag, but they see it and they value it. And so sales is more about telling a story and showing the client why and how it's going to help them and make them feel wonderful, and less about focusing on, well, we got this, but then we're going to save money here. And this is a bit of a splurge. I recognize it's a splurge. Don't talk about the money. Talk about the goods. Talk about the story. Okay. I hope today's episode was valuable. I know it can get a little bit daunting, a little bit scary. I'd love to hear from you guys inside our Facebook group, the Designer Meetups Facebook group. If you're still on the fence of like how to price your services, definitely check out Pricing with Confidence. That is my my bite-sized course for design firm owners, all about the different pricing models in the industry, how to handle client objections when it comes to price, how to calculate your design fee. It's all in there. Go check it out. It's RebeccaHay.com/pricing. And I do hope to see you inside Power of Process. If you're interested in seeing more of the inside guts of how I run my business and the documents I use, I put it all out there. It's all inside POP. I hope to see you there. All right. See you soon.